Good morning, everyone. My name is Brad Eaton with Hormesis Health and Fitness. This is the podcast for Hardstyle Health. And today we have the honor to have Yishay Ron. He is an Israeli author, a former elite combat soldier, and a survivor of severe PTSD. Writing has been an essential part of his healing journey, enabling him to channel deeply personal experiences into his work. His novel, Dog, is a powerful work of literary fiction that delves into trauma, resilience, and redemption. With his background as both a soldier and a psychology graduate, Ron brings authenticity and depth to his storytelling, making Dog both intensely personal and universally resonant. Originally written in Hebrew, Dog was translated into English by the highly regarded New York City-based translator Yardene Greenspan. The Hebrew edition of Dog was long listed for the Sapphire Prize, Israel's most prestigious literary award. Ron's previous works in Hebrew include Holiday Apocalypse, which was nominated for the Geffen Award, and Vincent's Nose, a children's book that was adapted into an award-winning play. So, Yishay, if we could start with you first.
First of all, good morning, Brad, and good morning to the audience. And thanks for the introduction. It's a pleasure to be hosting your show, in your
Thank you.
podcast.
Good morning.
Hi. A Dog is indeed a book which describes what happens to a PTSD officer of combat, Golani officer in Gaza. Actually, it happened before the October 7th, but very close to it happened. The book was published in Hebrew in beginning of 2023, so it was like very relevant to what happened in October. But the book it's not a classic war book, because Dog is following it's following the connection between Gellers, which is the officer, which become addicted and homeless in the story, and actually it follows also the story of Dog, which is told through his perspective, and Dog is also a PTSD survivor. And their meeting gives the plot and both of them some kind of redemption and resilience to go through this process together. And when I'm talking about a dog that is PTSD, it's actually symbolized that all of us can be PTSD. Okay, so I'm an ex-soldier, and but you know, anyone can suffer PTSD if it's a sexual PTSD that happens to women and to men everywhere. And if it can be also a PTSD from car accidents or any major event that can influence us in a all different way. I mean, we can both of us be in the same situation. One will process it and feel okay, and the other one will trigger some very bad manifest of PTSD. So I think that this is why the author in me choose a dog, an animal, okay, that can be any one of us.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. So we have a number of questions here to have your insight on. But would you say that PTSD is quickly identifiable by a person, or do you think that can exist and a person really doesn't recognize they have it?
I think that it's a great question because especially now we can see it in Israel, but I'm sure that it's it, it's very dramatic in the US as well, and in every country where there is conflict and war, in Russia and Ukraine, and in anywhere. In Israel, it is very obvious now that there is a dramatic rise of suicidal incidents among reserves, soldiers, and regular soldiers that participated in the war, which is still ongoing in Israel. And I think that the reason is that the system and the society, and of course the person that is suffering from PTSD, are not very easily aware of the symptoms. And I think that a major element of a PTSD is a shame. Okay, all of us, or most of us, especially soldiers or police officers and people of the security forces, we like to find ourselves very strong, very manly. We are very tough, and admitting to ourselves, first of all, that something is wrong, that I was influenced differently, or my soul or my personality was impacted differently than my friends, okay, and I'm injured, is something that I'm usually very easily ashamed of. And I think that the first step in understanding that you are suffering from PTSD is to throw away the shame, to understand that it's an injury exactly like losing a arm or losing a leg. No difference, even actually much worse, okay? And there is a research that showed in Israel that soldiers that are PTSD wounded are living by average 5 years less than any other wounded soldiers, meaning even head wounds and very severe wounds. But when they take it on average and they check, the people that are wounded by PTSD live 5 years less than all the other handicapped and wounded soldiers. So it's something that is very, very important to handle and to take and to make some kind of a therapy as quick as possible. And yes, you are correct, Brad. It's something that it's not very easy to admit to yourself and to society and to the close people to crack and say and put the finger on and say, wow, he has PTSD, we should take care of it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah. As a society, I think we're very privileged to have such brave people in various occupations, soldiers such as yourself, police officers, even people in the emergency room trauma centers that we like myself don't see that. We have the comfort of not being part of it, and just really don't have an appreciation for what we get in terms of the benefit of all the service of people like yourself and all those other members, police
Yeah,
officers.
I've seen that there've been even new researches that checked the PTSD among medical staff during the COVID, and they show that there is a dramatic rise among medical team that were handling COVID in the peak of the plague when people were dying in big numbers in the ER and in other COVID, departments in the hospitals, and so it actually can hit everyone.
Yeah, yeah. So perfect. So let's dive into now your published work. So first, what made you write Dog, and how much of the story is your own?
So Dog was written by me actually a few years before I knew I'm PTSD. Okay, so it's very unusual or very unique thing that the author in me recognized the PTSD before I did. So even after I start writing Dog, which is a book that deals directly with the PTSD and actually similar symptoms that I had, I still haven't understand as a person, or I not still haven't understand, but I didn't want to admit to myself that yes, you are suffering from PTSD. So I think that Dog was more of unconscious writing, some or maybe another way of my body and my soul to wake me up, and tell me, listen, look at yourself. What you're experiencing is very bad. So you can see a lot of similarities between 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 Geller and myself. Both of us suffers from anxiety and panic attacks, and both of us were addict. Okay, Geller became addict at first to light drugs, and then it's not helping anymore, and he's starting to use heroin and become homeless, like what happens to a lot of drug addicts. And you can see it, by the way, all over the world, that some of them, of those drug addicts, suffer from PTSD, all kinds of PTSD, if it's armed forces or if it's childhood or sexual. A lot of them become addicted to drugs and find themselves on the streets. So on my personal life, I'm lucky to have Eleanor, my wife, and my 3 kids, and it helped me. They helped me, and they are the reason, one of the reasons which I could overcome and become a known PTSD survivor to the defense forces in Israel and get the therapy. But Geller in the story is actually in the place which I was before I got treatments, meaning I was addicted to many kind of drugs, and I tried to numb myself in many ways, in alcohol, with grass, marijuana, smoking all day, just trying to numb my thoughts, my panic attacks. And so there is a really parallel lines between my book and myself, or Geller in the book and myself.
Mhm, mhm. So really a therapy for you and a means to express how you're feeling in a novel type context. Is that what happened?
I think yes. When you're suffering from PTSD, usually one of the symptoms is that you find it very hard to work. Okay, to concentrate on every day's work, because you suffer from so many symptoms. If it's a strong PTSD, like your level of PTSD is very high, then you suffer from many things. You need medication. Usually you're medicated, and it means that I had very hard time to continue to put in my business. My wife and I have a baby brand business for more than 26 years, and suddenly it was very hard for me to uh, when I had my breakdown, my totally breakdown, and I started therapy, it was very hard for me to work. And I found that doing my art, my writing, because I'm also an author, gave me a way to escape reality, not exactly like drugs, but it gives you, to me at least, it helped me to get more calm, to to work as an author in my own time, in my own quantity. You don't need to work for many hours, but you can do an hour here or a few minutes there, and you. So I thought, and also as Dog started to be a book, a novel, and I started to rework on it after my breakdown, and I understood that it's part of my PTSD, this work. I had something that was more of a mission to bring the story to the people, to at first to other soldiers, and then to, as we talked before, to people everywhere. And this is the reason I also thought on giving it to translation and start to make it more international, because it was important for me to spread the PTSD news, like the symptoms, that people will know about it more all over. And so I think it's an important part of my healing, because as much as you find an important thing to do in your life, like a very high moral mission, then I think your soul can get a little better. Okay, so it's a kind of a therapy to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Very good. Very good. So I think you've touched on some of this, but what does it mean to live with PSD in a country like Israel, where trauma is almost the national currency?
Yeah, exactly what you said. Especially in the last 2 years, it's crazy. I think
Hmm.
that people with PTSD, I heard that PTSD among everywhere, like among the population, is rising very much in the last 2 years, because I think the 7th of October was very traumatic for all of us as Jews, as Israelis. If you think it over, in the first days we really didn't understand what happened to us, and I think that we were very also close to be eliminated, meaning if the Hezbollah from the north and Iran would have joined Hamas, Israel could have ceased to exist. It was that dramatic. So
Hmm.
people are influenced very much. A lot of them had direct contact with the atrocities in Gaza, and so many hundreds of thousands of soldiers joined the battles everywhere, in the north, in the east, in the south, so everywhere. And then you find yourself quite surrounded with people with PTSD. I'm, of course, all the sirens, which were so common during the last 2 years, from the Hezbollah, from Gaza, from Iran. People were influenced in every part of the country. It's not like, in the US, if you would have had something like in with the border of Mexico, then people in New York wouldn't have probably felt it as much. But Israel is so small that such a major war influenced immediately everyone. So I think it's kind of very, very hard. For me personally, I found myself in the first few months of the war really going to my therapy just to cry. It was so intense, it was so dramatic.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if we think typically we sometimes work can be stressful, but not to the degree this is. And within that, we all count on a period of recovery during your day to be able to go back to the next day. You just don't have that period of recovery in your life.
Yeah, well, I think that that's why people are using more benzos and alcohol and drugs because they try to find their quiet, you know.
Right.
And yeah, it's a big. That's why it's so important also for us, not only for Gaza, to end the war, you know, and bring
Yeah.
them all back and try to come back to a normal life, more or less.
Yes. Yes. How did your experience as an elite combat unit shape the emotional world of the novel?
It's exactly what I said before. The protagonist in the book is an elite soldier in Golani. I wasn't in Golani, but I was in an elite unit in which is an Arabist unit. We were disguised as Arabs and we were operating in the West Bank. Uh, and when you see a lot of dead people, and sometimes it's not only people that you killed, but it's also people that uh, you just see because you are in an operation, or because even sometimes you see atrocities that the Palestinians are doing to people they think that cooperate with us. So
Mm.
there's a lot of atrocity you see. And in my case, I also had an operation which I shot my friend in my team. And this is another specific cause for PTSD because you have a lot of emotions following eating one of your friends, shooting one of your friends. There's, it's a short time uh, thing because usually it ends very quickly, but in your mind you see him get shot and you don't know what happens to him and you think that, oh, now he's dead or now he's very severe wounded. So this process injured you, injured your soul. So there were many things that I experienced and so, and I think also Geller in his war in Gaza, he comes home and he did so many things and he watched so many things that he cannot deal with them even. So if you read the book, you know that he actually, all of the atrocities come to sit on the dog. Here he doesn't remember his friends that died. He doesn't remember all the Palestinians that were killed. Some of them, the innocent one that were killed. He remembers the dog that, and the dog wasn't a Palestinian or a Jewish dog. It was a dog,
Mhm.
okay? And suddenly, the only thing that he remembers as an atrocity as he thinks that he remembers one of his teammate shooting this innocent dog. So all the things that he saw and did in Gaza are concentrated to this dog that he remembers. And this is before actually he meets dogs in the story.
Mhm. Mhm. So the novel dives into addiction, shame, memories. Was there a hardest scene for you to write?
There were a few hard things, scenes to write because I think I felt it. It's
Mm.
not only writing with your mind, which, an author is building his own world, is building his own characters, and sometimes authors say that the characters are detached from them and start to have their own life and their own experience and their own thinking and feeling. With Dog, I wrote it not only with my mind but also with my soul, with my guts. So understand to understand what Geller is experiencing, uh, it was very hard for me because it came directly from my stomach and from my art. So having him as a drug user, like
Mhm.
I experienced, was very hard, and I think maybe the one of the hardest scene in Dog was when Geller is having his first anxiety attack, when he understands that something is wrong, but he doesn't know what's wrong. And this is actually exactly what happened to me. Uh, the day I understood that something is wrong mentally, but I didn't know why. I think in that day I got a panic attack and I didn't understand. I didn't know how to in, I didn't know what I was going on, what I was going through. You feel you are normal, and suddenly everything breaks down. So thinking about it and understanding that something really bad happened to you, but you cannot see it. It's not like when you are losing a finger or cutting your hand or something, and you can see the blood and say, okay, I need to put a band on it or to go to the hospital. Here you experience something which is dramatic, but you don't really know what's happening. You cannot deal with it.
When Gaylor believes that he can bend a spoon like Uri Geller, he might be able to return to who he was before. What does that spoon represent to you?
The spoon, I think, is kind of something that all of us has in our mind when we go to people that read in coffee or in cards, or check our future in the stars. It is like, it's the easy way out, okay? We go to a rabbi to have a blessing, so we will have another child if our wife cannot bring, or if our child has God forbid, a disease, we go to a rabbi or to a priest or whatever. So I think it's the easy way, because when you are in PTSD, and I guess in other very severe mental illness or even other illness, you sometimes cannot find yourself inside you the force to overcome what you're going through. You cannot say, okay, tomorrow I will wake up and I will not have panic attacks, so I will not have this OCD thinking, or I will not have anxieties or depression. So Geller finds the easy way, that he thinks that if he, anyway, an addict, he will take this spoon and he will download this movie he saw about Uri Geller, the mentalist that was in the 70s and the 80s a very big thing that everybody knew that succeed in bending spoons and stopping clocks or watches. So if he succeed in practicing his mind to bend the spoon, he knows that if he will succeed, it will he will be able to be like a god. He will have no problems anymore. He can then get out of his addiction, and he can overcome his mental problems, and he can be everyone. He can be anything.
Yeah. So the spoon is a tool, if you will. A person with a heroin addict, they obviously have a syringe and the drug, and it's heated in the spoon as a tool. But I remember in the book, it was more than that. It was almost a cherished thing that he chose not to use and to keep it pristine, and instead used a can to heat from. So that was an interesting thing. As you talked about the importance of the spoon, it had a really multi-dimensional value.
Yeah, the spoon for him is something which is like a sacred ornament or a sacred object. You shouldn't do heroin on it because then it will just be another heroin spoon. You have to treat it. If you paid attention when you read this part, you could have seen that uh, Geller is talking to the spoon. Okay, so he
Mhm.
treats it as if the spoon has a personality. Okay, he pleads the spoon to bend, and part of him sees the spoon, I think, as also a small little friends, that follow him and maybe will take care of him and you know not will be his savior, of course, but he needs to earn it to
Mhm.
make the spoon bend. So
Mhm.
yes.
Yeah. So, Dog is a story of redemption or of survival without resolution.
No, I think that dogs it gives hope.
Hmm.
I mean, I don't want to ruin the book to someone who haven't to make a spoiler for the people who haven't read it, but
Mhm.
I think that it's a hard book to read, and there's a way of misery that Geller has to go through. But I think at the end, people that read it told me, I think you must have do a sequel. I think you must have. I want to know what happens. So I think that when you read Dog at the end, you understand that there is hope for Geller. And
Right.
I think it's hope for all of us who suffer from PTSD, and maybe to all of us in general, if you want to be optimistic.
Yes. Yeah. So I think we've kind of touched on a few of these points, but if you want to add any more to it, one is um, about literature being a safe place to speak honestly about trauma.
I think literature is a safe place to speak about everything. Okay, um, it's a, I wouldn't say it's a safe place, but I think it's a place that help people to express their most traumatic and difficult places in their life. So I think in general it's something which if you're an author but on the other hand, even if you are a writer, a poet, or a singer, and you write poems, also you can give expression, you can express yourself in art. Okay, so in general, it's a place where it's easier for you to put the most difficult things so other people can read and you know.
All right, so let's talk about what made you name your protagonist Gaylor.
Okay, so Geller was, as we said before, he was a mentalist, actually maybe the most famous one in the world. He was in Israeli, by the way, he served as a paratrooper in Israel. So when I thought on something that can be the saver ornament for my protagonist, for Geller, um, I connected it to the spoon you heat up heroin on, and I said, okay, there's a spoon, and actually I didn't said, I just, it came up to my mind, and I felt that it's the correct thing for Geller to all this hope, meaning the spoon and Uri Geller succeeding in bending the spoon is the small hope that my protagonist Geller carries with him all the time. He has to have his small hope on his neck. He hangs the spoon on his neck with a chain, and he has to carry it all the time because he believes it can be his savior. And of course, his real name is not Geller, but everyone start calling him Geller, the homeless people, because he's trying to bend the spoon, okay? Especially when he's stoned and after he take a shot, he sits on his special sofa in his homeless ruined house somewhere in Tel Aviv. It's a dump where homeless people are there and shooting on drinking and sleeping, and he sits there and he's trying to bend the spoon. So this was like his way out. I had to give him a ticket that he will try to get out. Yeah,
Way out.
a way
Yeah,
out.
yeah, yeah. So in Dog, there's no clear villain, and you mentioned before about shame, and so shame itself becomes the enemy. Can we talk about that briefly?
Yeah, I think shame in general, it's I think the number one enemy of any PTSD survivor or not survivor, of anyone that suffers from PTSD, especially for guys, for men, especially for guys that are either sexual victims, which is very hard to admit for men. I was sexually hurt or I was sexually assaulted, and also for soldiers, okay? Because soldiers feel, they go around in the world with their big rifle, their big gun, and they're like, oh, I'm so strong, I'm in the best units, I go to the very dangerous operation, and to suddenly admit this weakness, that something is wrong with you, it's almost impossible. And you see that people, that soldiers, I think you have it also in the States, um, um, organization that deal with it, And in Israel also, you see that people sometimes, instead of taking care of themselves and looking for therapy and talking with the army or with the defense forces to be acknowledged as a PTSD survivor, they just and decide to end their life. They see no way out. Sometimes the shame is so big and the situation is so hard, they can hardly acknowledge they can heal themselves. They just know that something that very, very bad is happening to them, and the shame is preventing them from them to get help. And I think this why it's so important for this subject to be talked and to be spread and to be in the news over and over again, because people has to get help, and people shouldn't be ashamed if their soul is injured, exactly as they will not be ashamed if they have their arm blown off or their leg blown off and they need help to have to live without an arm or a leg. It's the same thing. This is an unseen injury, but it is an injury, and the most common injury in battles, by the way. So of course, shame is the number one enemy of the PTSD survivors.
So Yishay, when you reached out to me, there were two things that when you made this offer, I said, you're in. The first was that you were a member of the Israeli Defense Force. Now, that's a military. We have our own military here in the United States. I'm a veteran also. I value all of the service they give. I was going to have you on the podcast. The second thing was that you named your book Dog. Because I will tell you, here in the United States, there's now, I think, maybe more than one organization, but it's to help veterans with trauma and PTSD. And what they do is they seek out these dogs. They're usually of what we call the pit bull breed. Do you know of that breed?
Yeah.
Okay. So the pit bull breed could be Staffordshire Terriers or the other types of pit bulls. These pit bulls have received a really bad rap here in the United States, and might even know in countries like England they ban them. And they used to be called the nanny dog.
Yeah.
Because they were so good and passionate with children, and they are the most amazing canine. I have two. I have one who's 11. I have a Staffordshire Terrier who's 11. I mean, he sleeps with me. I can look at his big brown eyes and connect with him. He's just incredible. And we rescued him. So he had his own trauma when he was taken from New York in a shelter. And so that was the other reason. And now we have another little puppy. He's 11 months old. He is a pocket pit bull, and he is learning behavior and such from our bigger pit bull now. And they are the most loving thing you could imagine. Both of them have mine and my wife's heart, and anyone that meets them, it takes their heart. So here we have this animal that has had such a bad rap, if you will, and poorly treated. And then on the other side, we have veterans that their PTSD and such has not been cared for. And this organization now brings them both together. They bring together these pit bulls who've been abandoned and mistreated, and they rehabilitate them, and they bring them together with veterans who face trauma and PTSD as therapy dogs.
Yeah, it's in Israel. It's the same. We usually those dogs in Israel are not pit bull, but usually they use Labradors, which are considered uh, very, very amazing dogs with like very good nature. And actually, it's not only we have some volunteering and private sectors that do it, but also the defense ministry, like the defense forces, as a department for veterans with PTSD that are training dogs. It costs a lot of money for the state, but they do it. There's a like a request list, and they train the dogs, and in time they train them with the PTSD injury with the veteran himself, so they have a good connection. And the animal, like the dogs, they are trained to recognize panic attacks, anxiety, low moods, and they just really help the veteran to pass the day and to be in public also. So yes, this was another issue which was influenced. You know, dog has a lot of elements that came together in the book. And it wasn't that I was thinking about, oh, I'll take the spoons from Geller, I will take the dog from the rescue dogs, I will. No, it just all came to be one, like, because really, like a good story is like a magic. You know, sometimes you see something, a movie or read a book and you say, wow, how did they think about it? Or how did they do it? And in my eyes, we don't do it. It happens to us. You know, it just happens. Everything falls apart. All the parts fall in the right places. So dog had his place in the book, not only as someone that will help Geller find his way and help him survive and even rescue him in one point of the book, but it was also came from someone as innocent as possible, you know, because dog is not human, but is more human than most human. And dog has a PTSD himself, the dog in the book, because as you said about your dogs that were saved from New York, dog has a story of his own, and he's gone through a lot, and he finds himself injured and in PTSD in the same house where Geller finds himself. And they both have a lot in common. So yeah, I think dog is maybe the most important protagonist of the book, actually.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. As I'm reading through, um, what do you hope readers, especially American readers, take away from Dog?
I think that I hope that they will understand PTSD better. I hope that they will uh, put more attention to the people surrounding them, to veterans, to drug addicts, to sexual assaulted victims, and that they will understand that when you see someone in the street which is he's a junkie, and you will not just, okay, I give him some money, or I give him or in the worst case just move your eyes. You should understand that he's a human being, you know, that this human being could have been a well-decorated officer in the army
Right.
or anyone, that PTSD or other mental breakdowns can happen to all of us. And it doesn't matter if you are the President of the United States or you are a soldier in the army or you are just a child being molested in his family or being untreated properly. Everyone can be high and they can be low, and we should look at those people in the street and around us with pity and uh, with feelings that, what can we do to help them or not to ignore them. Sometimes people treat homeless people like they are garbage. And sometimes those people are just people that need help, need attention, need redemption. So I,
Yes.
so I think
Yeah.
this is basically. I think that dog in Israel it became like some kind of a cult book, and many PTSD veterans and others came to meet me. And I think this is basically what I want in the US also. I think that people should read the book, get what get the messages, and if they like it or they feel that it's a unique book, give it to someone else to read. And I think that um, I hoped, like what happened in Israel, that will happen in other countries, that it will expand the awareness for PTSD in general and specifically in the defense forces.
Yeah. Excellent. So I've greatly enjoyed this podcast together.
Oh, me
I can
too.
tell you I can tell you that reading the book, I'm about a third through it, maybe close to a half. Um, it's reminded me to be a little more humane. I think we could all use a reminder once in a while. Open my heart, and it's just a great
So
publication.
thank you so much to you, Brad. I enjoyed having this discussion with you. I will be grateful for your audience if they can follow my social networks and if they can, of course, buy dog in any chain store or Amazon or where they just need to Google dog by Yishay Ishi or
Okay.
look for the links for my website, etc. And yes, I hope they will find something in the book, something that will improve their attitude as well. And,
Hmm.
and I enjoyed it very much, the discussion with you, Brad. Thank you so much. The PTSD is very common everywhere, and it can touch every person everywhere. We sometimes see even bullying in school can cause children to take their life, and they do it because they are suffering some kind of PTSD from what other children are doing to them, and sexual attacks on women and on men. Basically, it is very, very important to me to expand the awareness for PTSD with veterans, because I come from this world. So and dog was written from this perspective. So as much as I know that PTSD is everywhere, I do want to concentrate on the issue of shame. Don't be ashamed if you feel you're suffering from a mental breakdown or PTSD. because of your service to your country. Okay, go have a treatment, go to therapy. It is very important. It can save your life.